In the car with Starr on this Mail It In Friday. How's it going, you guys? Canadiens dropped to 3-9 when they got beat by Brock Nelson and the New York Islanders. 6-2 is the latest loss, the 9th loss of the season for the Canadiens, as they fall now to 0-3. Did you guys know that? Very easy, right, to keep track of the Canadiens' wins this season. They've beaten Detroit twice, and San Jose is the other one. And remember, they needed a historic level performance from Jake Allen, 45 saves, to shut down San Jose and win that game. It's not good, you guys. 3-9 and 0-3 this year off of wins. The Canadiens, when they win, they get slaughtered the next night out. They have been outscored 16-5 in games where they're coming off a W. And now, as I've mentioned, they've fallen to 0-3 this season after they got whooped but good last night by the New York Islanders. What was the most positive thing that you saw from the Canadiens last night? I'll give you mine before you tell me yours in the comments section. I thought the Montreal Canadiens started well. Now, I love the way they performed Tuesday night against Detroit, right? They owned the Red Wings and just thoroughly dominated Detroit for 60 minutes. And the other day I was telling you about pro teams breaking up the marathon of a regular season, breaking it up in manageable chunks in order to hit short-term goals. And I believe the Canadiens did that, right? So game number 1 of their second 10-game block was a very impressive, dominant performance over Detroit. So what was the follow-up performance going to be? What have you done for me lately, in other words? Not good, as the Montreal Canadiens got dominated. And you got that sense after the Islanders made it 2-0, it just felt like, well, the wheels have fallen off and the team will fall off the tracks and won't be long. And then, as it turned out, that's exactly what happened. They made it 5-0. Nick Suzuki got a couple of points in garbage time. The Canadiens managed to salvage something. They didn't get shut out, and they end up losing in a 6-2 final, and they await Vegas, who are starting to look pretty good with a depleted lineup. And so this is where I want to take you, right? Because you take a look at a team like Vegas, right? How many first overall picks do they have on their roster? None. The Montreal Canadiens don't have any. So who's to blame here? Who's to blame for what has happened in Montreal? A lot of people will tell you, well, listen, this is the dose of reality fans in this market needed. They were a phony baloney nonsense for getting to the Stanley Cup final last year. To that I say BS. I don't buy that for a microsecond. You know why? Because the playoffs, it's the hardest part of the season to win. And not only did the Canadiens win 3 different rounds, they dominated good to very good teams. They did to Vegas what no team in 3 years had ever been able to do to the Golden Knights, and that's bully them. And the Canadiens did that and were full value for their 6-game series win in round number 3. What did they do to the Winnipeg Jets? They swept the Winnipeg Jets and made Mark Scheifele absolutely go bananas. Why? Because the Montreal Canadiens played to an identity. They had a goal. They had a feel to them, and they were inspired. What happened against Toronto? Down 1-3. Sperry Kotkaniemi scores in overtime. Boom! This team is rolling, right? So I'll give you the argument that the Canadiens benefited the most from being in the North Division last year. That barely got them into the playoffs. Remember, they limped into the playoffs right there with Nashville, okay? But once they got in, this team turned the corner. And do you know why they turned the corner? And it's going to be impossible, I think, for anybody to move me off this. They turned the corner because of Shea Weber. They turned the corner because of Shea Weber and, to a lesser extent, Carey Price. They turned the corner because NHL players are a military-level brotherhood. They love playing and winning for their teammate than they do for themselves. It's just hockey culture. It's how it is. Maybe it'll change, but not in the here and now. And so they still operate that way. There is a slight chance that this team knew Shea Weber's last ride was last year. I believe the core group of the Montreal Canadiens knew that it was Shea Weber's last ride. So it's that old, let's go win one for the Gipper. Let's win one for Shea. And maybe they knew that Carey Price was going to have a bit of a setback. I believe more about the Shea Weber angle than I do about the Carey Price angle. But those two players share one common denominator. They are beloved by their team. So if there was an ounce of adversity in Carey Price, you know the team would rally to support this guy. They love Carey Price more than anybody else. And the same for Captain Shea Weber, who I believe was a big motivator to win one for Shea. And they got all the way to the Stanley Cup final and fell 3 wins shy of the ultimate goal. And then coincidence that Shea Weber's career might be over, at the bare minimum, his season will not go on as planned as he recovers from off-season surgery. So as a result, the Montreal Canadiens look uninspired. They look uninspired, and they have since game number 1. David Savard is a disaster. He is a disaster. He looks, I don't know, as a guy who's out of shape, he looks out of shape. When I see Alexander Romanov, I see a guy who looks lost. When I see Jeff Petrie, I see a guy who's playing hurt. When I see Brett Kulak, I see a guy who's a 7th defenseman in the National Hockey League. And who do you blame for this? Who do you blame for this? General Manager Marc Bergevin? Without question, you blame General Manager Marc Bergevin. Without question. This is his team. This is his team. Fans, media, they wanted this team to look a certain way. Does it not look the way some people wanted it to look? And now what? And what about Dominic Ducharme? How much blame does Dominic Ducharme get? I think Dominic Ducharme gets a lot. I understand he's working with who he has to work with. But I believe to this day, with this team 3-9, that this group of 12 forwards is damn good. And not only are they underachieving, they're dramatically underachieving. And whose fault is that? Is that Dominic Ducharme? This guy doesn't change on the fly, doesn't change tactics. When asked about why he keeps personnel together, he's like, well, I need defensemen out there on the ice. Great job, coach. Everybody knows you need 2 defensemen out there on the ice. Mixing and matching 12 games in. They're out of answers. 12 games into the season. And everybody that watches this team or watched them last year knew that the group of 6 on the blue line wasn't very good. But the fact that they don't score, that this team just doesn't score, and they look out of sorts, like, how is it? Like, what is Brendan Gallagher's dealing with? What? A lower body injury? He's dealing with a groin injury? That's what I heard. But because he lost Phil Deneau and Thomas Tatar, this guy's game is gone, is vanished. Cole Caulfield, the same version you saw in the Stanley Cup final, never even saw a glimpse of that in any of the games he played before he was sent to Laval. Nick Suzuki, give him a bit of a pass. You know, he's taken over for Phil Deneau, taking those roles, taking those minutes, taking that responsibility. The new contract that kicks in next year. There's a lot mentally to handle there. So you go a little bit lighter on Nick Suzuki. Tyler Toffoli, this guy needs Vancouver to be energized. And even I said it last year, much to people didn't like the criticism I was giving to Tyler Toffoli because he was playing like a 40-goal guy. He's not a good skater. Doesn't hustle. You know, he's a smart guy. He's a brilliant offensive hockey player. Like, he knows where to be. He anticipates puck movement maybe better than anybody on this team. He knows where to be and where the puck is likely going to end up, and he's got a great release. Josh Anderson, he was part of a line that was a combined -14 yesterday. That's hard to do. Almost had 3 guys on a line that were -5 apiece. That is hard to do. And they got Brock Nelson. Islanders, when Brock Nelson scored 4 times on the Montreal Canadiens in that 6-2 win. And the fans are giving it to the Canadiens. Fans are giving it to them in the second period. Mock sing-song in the third period, which I'm all for. Like, you want this team to get better? I don't believe in tear it down and do a rebuild. I don't believe in that. I think that's loser talk, personally. It's not how pro sports. You don't look at your team's regular seasons. Okay, guys, we're gonna go out there. We're gonna lose every bloody night. It doesn't work that. That's loser talk. That's loser talk. That's how amateurs talk. That's not how professional athletes and their mental minds are made. I believe that. So if you want to let this team know your level of dissatisfaction, boo them. Mock them. C'est pas acceptable. This team got to the Stanley Cup final last year. They've got proven players on this team. A bunch of them that can score goals. And the coach, 12 games into his season, he's out of answers. Remember, this team was winning when he had COVID, and he wasn't part of the team in the playoff run last year anyway. He's got a below 500 record, and they won 3 rounds in the playoffs. You know what my answer is? If the Montreal Canadiens decide that Dominic Ducharme is no longer their guy, and that general manager Marc Bergevin might be on his last contract as GM of the Montreal Canadiens, you know what I would do? If I were Jeff Molson, I'd say, fine. Marc Bergevin, you're going to manage this season out, and let's see how it ends. I would bring in John Tortorella. That's who this club needs. John Tortorella is a veteran NHL man. John Tortorella respects the National Hockey League. He respects the history of the NHL. He understands the importance of the history of the Montreal Canadiens and would do this organization proud by being the next head coach of the Montreal Canadiens. And this team needs a kick in the ass. And John Tortorella is the guy with the boots. That's who I would bring in. Josh Anderson knows him. What about Pierre-Luc Dubois? I mean, say what you want about John Tortorella. You always know where you stand with this guy, in good or bad times. Some players thrive in an environment like that. When they need their ass kicked, John Tortorella is the right guy for that. Sometimes you need a pat on the back. Okay, maybe he's not the best guy for that. But Pierre-Luc Dubois is a shadow of himself in Winnipeg. John Tortorella can get the most out of his players. We've seen him do it before. And this is what this team needs as they welcome in Vegas on Saturday night. Speaking of Saturday nights, mark it on your calendar now. November 20th. It's a Saturday night. Poutineville, Vaudreuil-Dorion. I will see you there. Joey Elias and friends performing in what is a must-see show. Live from Poutineville, Vaudreuil-Dorion. $20 gets you through the door. You can buy your tickets online at poutinevillevaudreuil-dorion.com. November 20th. I'll see you there. And hopefully I'll see you Sunday at Little Havana Cigar Lounge as we gas up at K-Stop Gas Bar, Highway 138 in Ganawage. I'm done paying premium prices for premium fuel. I'm going to go to a locally owned, family-owned service station at K-Stop Gas Bar in Deppeneur, just over the Mercier Bridge. 14 minutes door-to-door from the Bell Center to K-Stop Gas Bar. Walk inside the convenience store, see their amazing selection of all sorts of goodies, prepared meals, smoothies, great snacks, and of course the cheapest gas that normally you pay premium for. You get premium fuel at discount prices. K-Stop Gas Bar, Deppeneur, Highway 138 in Ganawage.